As Dorothy mentioned, my professional training is in landscape architecture, so I come at this particular topic from the standpoint of how you protect the physical properties of a resource, how you plan in order to better utilize it and preserve it and make it available to people at the same time that you're protecting it far into the future. And that's what we would call, in my profession and related ones, carrying capacity. In other words, how do you determine the number of people that can come to a place and successfully use it without causing damage that you don't want either in the short or the long term? The short term is the easy part, the long term is the hard part, because sometimes those issues are not nearly as obvious as you would like. Did a lot of that with the National Park Service when I was in Wisconsin, learned a lot about some of the issues, and a lot of them come from places you don't think about. And an example of that, one of the biggest things that we were fighting up there was purple loosestrife, which is a beautiful plant in the garden. It's one of my favorite perennials. It's now a noxious weed in Arkansas and 43 other states, because when you put it in your garden, it seeds all over the place and it takes over waterways. And what we found in Wisconsin was there were 3 native shorebirds that were endangered, endemic species that were endangered because this particular plant had taken over the entire lakeshore of Lake Superior in our part of the state, and all their natural food sources had been crowded out. So that's the kind of thing that we're concerned about in the big picture. Mike mentioned the aspect of place-based learning, and most of my experiences in my professional life have been about those individual places. And certainly that's the goal of what we're trying to do now in Hot Springs with Garvan Woodland Gardens, which is to create a place that has a lot of assets for not only Arkansans, but the 2 million people that visit Arkansas right down the street at Hot Springs National Park. To give you an example of some of the impact that that's having, we had 131,000 visitors last year through the garden. We had visitors from every state in the Union, and we had visitors from 36 foreign countries. If you think about how many places in Arkansas are exposed to and also expose us as a place to that people from that many different places, it's a significant contribution, and I'm very interested in and kind of honored to be involved in that. We are trying to create a place that's doing some things that I think are significant. The first one is to protect a resource. That was Miss Garvan's, our original founder's primary goal was to make sure that this 210-acre peninsula was not only used but preserved. She asked that everything that we do be 2 things. One, that it be world-class, and 2, that it be specifically aimed at speaking about preservation in the 20th century and in subsequent centuries as the garden grew. So that was really a goal of hers. How do you create a facility where people can learn and enjoy themselves and recreate, and at the same time protect something that's fairly significant? And I was talking to Dorothy on the radio show earlier. We're spoiled in Arkansas. I mean, we really are. You go to Southern California or San Francisco and try to go out and take a 10-minute walk and go out in the woods like we can do here in most parts of Arkansas, and you're not going to find it. That's both a positive and a negative. I think the positive is pretty obvious, and I think you can figure out what the negative is. It's so common here that maybe we don't appreciate it as much as we should. And that's one thing that we're working really hard at the garden to educate people about. So we're trying to create that place that Mike and a lot of other people are using to come out and really educate people on important issues. And he mentioned Richard Liu, which is also key on my mind right now, because one of our projects is our new children's garden, which is just about to open phase 1. And we've worked with a lot of people in the education industry, and I've gotten a very significant education on what's going on with kids today that's kind of scary. I'm not blessed with children of my own, so some of you are seeing these things every day that I don't witness. But it's really getting to be a serious problem that kids are interfacing with TV screens and with games and friends in the house, and they're talking on chat lines, and they're not getting out. And I didn't realize how bad it was until last summer, and this is a true story. We had a 5-year-old girl who was terrified of a butterfly. She had never been around a butterfly enough to know that it wasn't dangerous and that it was a beautiful thing that happened in nature that she should be enjoying as a 5-year-old. That is not uncommon anymore. And you think about where that's going, it's pretty scary. Not only is it an important issue in terms of the kid's actual relationship with nature, which is probably the worst part of it, what teachers are finding is if kids don't understand these things from these basic experiences as they're growing up, then you try to teach them a classroom lesson, and they don't get it. They don't get it for two reasons. They don't have some of the interactions that help them understand it, and they don't get it because they don't care. If you don't understand, if you've not experienced something, it's pretty hard for you to care about it. So it's really a scary thing. And we're really working hard with this children's garden and all of our facilities to get kids out into the woods. And I grew up on a farm in Faulkner County. And first thing we did when we got off the school bus was run out in the woods after we got our chores done and run around and see what was swimming around in the stream, or build a dam and see what happened, or go see what was making the leaves turn red. It was something every day, and I didn't realize how little kids do that anymore. And it's a whole bunch of things that are happening. It's not only those things that are influencing them and keeping them indoors, it's also fear on the part of parents. That may sound strange to you, but if you think about all the threats to a 5-year-old that I didn't have to worry about 40 years ago or 45 years ago, that a parent has to think about every day now. And when you think about the fact that some of these parents themselves have not had the same kind of experiences that I have and don't realize that some of these things will hurt you, then they are, out of legitimate concern for the child's safety, they don't want them out. So there's a whole complex of things that are contributing to this problem, but a teacher can tell you that when she goes in and tries to teach a 5th grade science lesson, it's a whole lot harder than it used to be because of that. And this is, to me, the most important thing that we're working on probably. And if you expand that into the future, we're here to talk about ecotourism and conservation. And I've already said that people don't appreciate what they don't understand. If kids don't really get why they should care about the woods in Hot Springs or the Buffalo River in Newton County, then when they get to be the age where they're the decision makers, they don't have an appreciation for it. They don't put a value on it. And that's the scariest part of the whole thing. And that's what I think we can contribute the most to. And I need to shut up and pass it along. But anyway.
That was good.